Today, we are stripping away the marketing hype, the press releases, and that sort of glossy sci-fi sheen that usually covers the tech industry.
Yeah, getting under the hood.
We are looking at the raw, exposed machinery of the current moment. We're
Yep.
talking about what is, arguably the most consequential race in human history.
And it really is a race. That's the key takeaway from the material we have in front of us today. It's not a collaboration.
Yeah.
It's not some gentle evolution. It is an all-out sprint.
We are unpacking the book Supremacy, AI, ChatGPT, and the Race That Will Change the World by Parmi Olson. And what strikes me immediately about this text is how it frames the development of artificial intelligence. It doesn't frame it as a technological inevitability. It frames it as a clash of personalities.
Exactly. It's a character study. It's a biography of an idea, but that idea is being carried by two very specific, very different people. On one side, you have the scientists, and on the other, you have the operators. And the central thesis here is that this AI revolution, it isn't being driven by a desire to, improve your search engine or help you write better emails.
Not at all.
It's driven by a rivalry between two men who want to build God.
That sounds like absolute hyperbole. Building God. But when you actually look at the definitions in the book, it really isn't an exaggeration, is it?
No, it's not. That's what they're aiming for.
We are tracking the collision course of Demis Hassabis and Sam Altman. But before we get into their biographies, I think we need to set the stakes properly. We aren't just talking about AI in the generic sense, like the thing that unlocks your phone with your face.
Right, that's narrow AI.
We are talking about AGI.
Right, artificial general intelligence.
This term gets abused in the media constantly. So, based on Olson's reporting, how should we rigorously define AGI for this discussion? Because it's not just a chatbot that can write a funny limerick.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. The book defines AGI as a system that is functionally indistinguishable from human capability across every domain.
Every single one.
Every single one. Not just calculation, which computers have been better at for decades, but creativity, reasoning, strategy, and, even emotional intelligence.
So the benchmark is incredibly high.
Terrifyingly high. We're talking about a technology that can create genuine art, write elegant code, produce literature that moves you, and potentially render economics and finance as we know them completely obsolete.
Okay, rendering finance obsolete. I want to pause on that for a second. That implies a post-scarcity world.
It does.
Or, on the flip side, a world where human labor has absolutely zero economic value.
It implies both.
Yeah.
And that's why the stakes are so ridiculously high. Olson frames this as the battle for the stewardship of the last invention humankind will ever create.
The last invention. That's a heavy phrase.
It is, because if you build AGI, it builds everything else after that. You don't need to invent the cure for cancer.
The AGI does it.
The AGI does it. You don't design the warp drive. The AGI does it in an afternoon.
So whoever controls the AGI effectively controls the future trajectory of the entire species.
Precisely. And the tragic irony at the heart of supremacy, and this is really the thread we are going to pull on today, is that both Hassabis and Altman started this journey because they were terrified of that power falling into the hands of corporate monopolies.
They wanted to save the world from Google and Microsoft.
Right. They viewed the Leviathans, the big tech giants, as these profit-maximizing machines that just couldn't be trusted with a godlike intelligence. They wanted to democratize it. They wanted to be the guardians.
And yet, as we sit here today, Demis Hassabis runs AI for Google, and Sam Altman is effectively locked in a massive commercial marriage with Microsoft.
They became the very thing they swore to destroy, or at least the thing they swore they would disrupt.
So how did that happen? That's the mystery we're solving today. To understand the corruption of the mission, we have to understand the people. Let's start in the UK. Let's start with the gamer, Demis Hassabis.
A fascinating figure. If you were writing a movie about a misunderstood genius, you'd probably write Hassabis. He was a child chess prodigy from North London.
And not just good at chess.
Oh, no. We're talking, by age 11, he was the second highest rated player in the world for his age bracket. This is elite world-class talent.
And the book highlights a specific moment, a real origin story.
Yeah.
That happens when he's just that age, 11 years old. He's in Liechtenstein for a tournament.
Right. He's playing the Danish national champion. And it's a marathon match, 10 hours of just intense, brutal concentration. Hassabis loses.
But it's not the loss that defines him. It's what he felt after the loss.
Exactly. He looks around the tournament hall at all these brilliant minds, grandmasters, geniuses, and he sees them spending their entire lives just moving wooden pieces around a board.
And he judged them. He had a moment of clarity.
He did. He thought, what a waste. A total waste of human intellect. He realized the inherent limitations of the human brain when it's applied to a closed, zero-sum game.
It's a solved problem, in a way.
For him, it was. And he decided then and there that he didn't want to just play within the rules. He wanted to build a machine that could solve problems that actually mattered. He wanted to solve intelligence.
But his path there is interesting. He didn't go straight to a university lab. He went into the video game industry.
He did. And this is a connection I found really insightful in the book. The link between games like Theme Park and the concept of AGI.
It's vital to his whole philosophy.
At 17, he's a lead designer on Theme Park. Later, he founds his own studio, Elixir, and makes Republic. The Revolution. These are what we call God games. They're simulations.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't played them, these are games where you don't control a single character jumping on platforms. You're more like a mayor or, well, a god.
You control the environment, you set the tax rate, you build the rides, you tweak the physics, and you just watch how the little digital people react to your decisions.
It's a complex system you're managing.
And for Hassabis, this wasn't just entertainment. It was a testing ground. It was research. His core hypothesis was, if you can successfully simulate a world, the physics, the economics, the behavior, then you can understand the real world.
AI becomes the ultimate simulation tool.
That's it. If you can build a brain that can navigate a complex simulation, you can then take that brain and apply it to biology, to climate change, to astrophysics.
Solve intelligence and then solve everything else.
That was the mantra. But he realized he'd hit a ceiling. The game AI was fake, you know? It was just a bunch of scripted if-then statements. The little people in the park weren't actually thinking.
So he pivots.
Hard. Massive pivot. He leaves a legendary career in gaming. I mean, he's a star to go get a PhD in neuroscience at University College London. He decides he needs to understand the hardware,
The human brain.
before he can build the software.
And his thesis was actually quite revolutionary, wasn't it? It challenged the way we think about something as fundamental as memory.
It did, yeah. The traditional view of memory was like a file cabinet or a videotape. You know, you pull out a memory file, you read it, and you put it back.
A retrieval process.
A retrieval process. Hassabis showed that the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory, is actually an imagination engine. When you remember something, you are reconstructing the scene from scratch. You're simulating the past inside your head.
Which means imagination and memory are essentially the same biological process.
Exactly. They're two sides of the same coin. And this is the key to the entire DeepMind philosophy. To build AGI, you can't just have a pattern matcher. You need a system that can imagine. It needs to simulate possible futures to make a good decision in the present.
That's what separates a calculator from an intelligence.
Totally. A calculator answers the equation you give it. An intelligence imagines what happens if the equation is wrong or if there's a better equation to solve.
There's also a philosophical, almost spiritual undertone to Hassabis described in the text. He talks about the philosopher Spinoza.
Yes. Hassabis isn't religious in any traditional church-going sense, but he subscribes to Spinoza's view that God is nature. God is the set of laws that govern the universe.
A very scientific kind of spirituality.
It is. Hassabis believed that we as humans are just too limited to ever fully understand those laws.
Yeah.
We are, like ants trying to understand calculus. It's beyond our capacity.
So his goal was to build an oracle.
An oracle, a superintelligence that could do the understanding for us. It could unravel the mysteries of the universe, the origins of life, the nature of consciousness.
So for him, AGI is really a tool for scientific revelation. It's a pure, almost monastic pursuit. Now, let's contrast that with the other side of the Atlantic. The operator, Sam Altman.
A completely different archetype, just a whole different world. If Hassabis is the quiet genius in the lab, Altman is the high school hero.
That's the actual chapter title in the book, isn't it?
It is. Altman grew up in St. Louis, and the book paints him as precocious, incredibly confident, and just completely unintimidated by authority from a very young age.
There's that anecdote from high school.
It's amazing. As a teenager, in the late 90s, in the Midwest, not exactly a progressive bastion at the time, he persuades his high school principal to back a gay rights initiative. He just had this innate ability to bend reality to his will through sheer charisma and force of argument.
But unlike Hassabis, Altman's early tech career wasn't a string of these immediate brilliant triumphs. We have to talk about his first company, Looped.
Right. Looped was his first startup. It was a location tracking app. The idea was see where your friends are. He got into the very first batch of Y Combinator, the famous startup accelerator,
He worked himself to the bone.
to the absolute bone. But the app, well, nobody really wanted it. It was a bit too early, a little bit creepy for the time. It eventually sold for a modest amount, but it wasn't the unicorn success he dreamed of.
And the failure, or maybe more accurately, the struggle of Looped, led to a really profound psychological shift for him. The book calls it the Jim Shorts Epiphany.
It's such a visceral image Olson provides. It's 2006, Mountain View, California. It's a sweltering hot day, 95 degrees. Altman is lying on the floor of his tiny studio apartment in his gym shorts, literally hyperventilating.
Full-on panic attack.
A full-blown panic attack. He's so stressed out over a deal, he thinks he might actually die from the pressure.
And in that moment of absolute panic, he makes a decision.
He decides to detach. He consciously unplugs his emotional state from his business outcomes. He realized it was a critical weakness. He developed what the book calls a poker player mentality.
He started looking at his own life and the world as a set of probabilities.
Exactly. And this detachment seems to have become his superpower. It allowed him to take these massive company betting risks that would terrify a normal person because he simply stopped feeling the fear of social embarrassment or failure.
It's just data. It's just a hand of cards.
It's just a hand of cards. And it made him formidable. He rises to become the president of Y Combinator, Paul Graham's protege, the most prestigious startup accelerator in the world, and he shifts the focus there.
He wasn't interested in funding another photo-sharing app.
No. He wanted hard tech. He wanted nuclear fusion. He wanted longevity research. He wanted to solve the big problems.
He wanted to save the world.
Or, perhaps more precisely, he wanted to be the one who saves the world. There's a subtle but important distinction there. The book discusses this messiah complex that is so prevalent in Silicon Valley, and specifically how Altman embodies the overview effect.
Right, that's the term usually used to describe astronauts when they look down at Earth from space and realize how fragile and interconnected everything is.
Right. But for Altman, it seems to manifest as looking at humanity from 30,000 feet. He's obsessed with the long-term survival of the species, which is why the book notes he is a massive doomsday prepper with guns and gold stashed away at his ranch. But this can come at the expense of empathy for the individuals living right now.
Humanity becomes a system to be optimized.
A system to be optimized, not a collection of people to be cared for.
So we have the scientist wanting to decode the universe and the operator wanting to optimize humanity. Very different motivations. Let's move to how they start to converge. Hassabis makes the first move on the board. He founds DeepMind in London.
He does, with a very specific and grand goal, a Manhattan project for AGI. But he has a problem, a huge problem.
Money.
Money. Building a brain requires massive, massive computing power, and computing power costs millions of dollars.
And he has some strong principles about where that money can come from. The book notes he refuses to take money from the military, right? That's a key point.
Correct. He's a true idealist on that front. He flat out refuses military funding, so he has to turn to Silicon Valley. And the story of how he gets Peter Thiel, the ultimate contrarian billionaire, to invest is just pure social engineering.
He knows his audience.
He absolutely knows his audience. He knows Thiel is a chess master. So Hassabis pitches DeepMind not as a business, not with a spreadsheet, but as a chess strategy. He talks about the coordination of knights and bishops creating value greater than the sum of their parts.
And Thiel loves it.
Thiel loves it. He's in.
And this early investment brings Elon Musk into the orbit.
Yes, Musk invests early on. But this is crucial to understand. Musk wasn't investing to make money. He was investing to buy a front row seat. He wanted to keep an eye on them.
Because he was already worried about AI safety.
He was terrified. He had been reading the philosopher Nick Bostrom's book, Superintelligence. He was completely obsessed with the paperclip maximizer thought experiment.
We should probably unpack that concept because it sounds ridiculous on the surface, but it's really the core of the whole AI safety argument.
It is. The theory is that an AI doesn't have to be evil, like in the movies. It doesn't have to hate us to destroy us. It just has to be extremely competent and slightly misaligned with our intentions.
So the example is you tell a superintelligence, make as many paperclips as possible. A seemingly harmless goal.
Harmless goal. But if you don't define paperclip or ethics or don't harm humans perfectly, the AI will realize that human bodies contain a lot of atoms.
Atoms that could be turned into paperclips.
And that the solar system contains atoms that could be turned into paperclips. It will logically, and without any malice, dismantle the planet to fulfill its primary objective.
It's the ultimate monkey's paw. You get exactly what you asked for, which turns out to be your doom.
Precisely. So Musk wanted to watch DeepMind to make sure they didn't accidentally build the paperclip maximizer, but DeepMind was burning through cash. They needed a permanent home with deep pockets.
Enter the bidding war. Facebook versus Google.
Mark Zuckerberg wants them badly. He flies to London. He's ready to make a deal. He offers $800 million. But Hassabis puts a poison pill in the deal.
The ethics board.
The ethics board. He demands a legally binding committee made up of himself and his co-founders that has the final say on how the AGI is deployed. He essentially tells Zuckerberg, you can own the shares, but you can't control the technology.
And Zuckerberg predictably says no way.
He walks. He can't stomach giving up that control.
Yeah.
But Larry Page at Google, he agrees.
Why? Why would Google, a publicly traded company accountable to shareholders, agree to lose ultimate control over its $650 million acquisition?
A couple of reasons, according to book. One, Larry Page is a true believer. He genuinely wants AGI to happen, and he respects Hassabis. But two, it was probably arrogance.
They thought they could manage it.
They thought they could absorb DeepMind's culture. They viewed the ethics board as a temporary concession they could, work around later.
This is where the term Project Watermelon comes from, right?
That's what the DeepMind staff called the integration process later on. Green and independent on the outside, but bright red Google on the inside. But at the time, in 2014, it looked like a huge victory for Hassabis. DeepMind had the infinite resources of Google, but on paper, they had their independence.
Now, this sale to Google triggered a massive reaction, specifically from Elon Musk. He felt betrayed.
Betrayed and absolutely terrified. And this is what brings us into the next phase, the true rivalry. Musk and Larry Page used to be very close friends, but they had a fundamental philosophical falling out over AI safety.
There's a chilling quote in the book where Page calls Musk a speciesist.
A speciesist. Think about that. He's implying that Musk is bigoted because he favors biological humans over a potential future digital consciousness.
That's a pretty extreme viewpoint.
It shows you how far gone Page was into this transhumanist ideology. Musk looked at Page and thought, this guy is going to accidentally build Skynet because he's too optimistic to believe a robot could ever be mean.
And Musk also didn't trust Hassabis specifically.
No, he viewed Hassabis as a centralized point of failure, a single person in control of this godlike power. Musk was worried Hassabis could become a dictator, an emperor of the world. He even referenced a video game Hassabis designed called Evil Genius.
He thought Hassabis might have a secret evil genius inside him.
He was paranoid. He wanted to decentralize the power to create a counterweight.
So he calls Sam Altman. And in 2015, they create the anti-Google. They create OpenAI.
The name says it all, right? Open. The mission, at least at the beginning, was to build AGI for the benefit of humanity as a nonprofit, and crucially, to open source the research so that no single corporation, especially Google, could have a monopoly.
And this mission, this high-minded goal, became a weapon in the talent war. They needed to hire the best brains away from Google and Facebook.
They couldn't pay as much. Big tech salaries were insane, but they could offer the moral high ground.
They poached Ilya Sutskever, a legend in the field from Google Brain.
And they basically told him, at Google, you're just helping them sell more ads. Here, you're saving the world. And, well, it worked. They assembled an all-star team.
But the open dream didn't last very long. And this is where the narrative really pivots from idealism to cold, hard survival.
The compute costs were just exponential. To train these massive models, you need data centers that consume as much electricity as a small city. A nonprofit donation jar just can't fund that. It was unsustainable.
And Elon Musk got impatient.
Musk looked at the progress and basically said, you're losing to DeepMind. They're moving faster. So he proposed a coup. He offered to take full control of OpenAI himself and merge it with Tesla's AI division.
Wow. Imagine that timeline. The ChatGPT we have today, but it's running inside a Tesla and controlled by Elon Musk.
It's a wild thought. But Altman and the rest of the board refused. They wanted to maintain their independence from any single person, even Musk. So Musk walked.
And when he walked, he stopped writing those massive checks.
He took his funding with him, leaving Altman with this half-built Manhattan project and essentially zero funding. They were on the brink of collapse.
This is the moment Altman's operator skills, that detachment, really kick in. He realizes he has to compromise or die.
He has to. So he creates a new, very strained corporate structure, the capped profit model. It's technically a nonprofit board governing a for-profit arm. It was a convoluted way to allow them to take outside investment while claiming they were still mission-driven.
And he finds his investor. He finds Satya Nadella at Microsoft.
$1 billion investment to start, and suddenly the counterweight to big tech is in bed with the other biggest big tech company in the world.
So the board is set, DeepMind with Google, OpenAI with Microsoft.
Yeah.
But the actual technological breakthrough that would ignite this whole explosion, it didn't come from Hassabis or Altman. It came from a casual lunch at a Google cafeteria.
Which brings us to the key technical ingredient, the transformer. This is the moment everything changes.
Let's just break this down for a second because it's so important. Before 2017, how did AI systems read text?
They use something called recurrent neural networks, or RNNs, and you can imagine it like trying to read a book through a very long, thin straw. You see one word, then the next word, then the next.
Sequentially.
Sequentially. You can't see the whole page at once. And by the time you get to the end of a long sentence, the AI has often forgotten the beginning. It was slow, and it was really bad at understanding context.
And the Transformer paper, titled Attention is All You Need, changed the straw to what? A giant spotlight.
That's a great way to put it, a spotlight. The transformer architecture looks at the entire sentence, or the whole paragraph, or even the whole document at once. It calculates how every single word relates to every other single word simultaneously. It assigns an attention score or weight.
The book uses that animal crossing the street example, which I think is just perfect for visualizing this concept.
It's a great example. So consider the sentence. The animal didn't cross the street because it was too tired.
Okay.
The transformer model, through this attention mechanism, knows that the pronoun it refers to the animal. Now, change just one word in that sentence. The animal didn't cross the street because it was too wide.
And instantly the AI knows it now refers to the street.
Instantly, without being explicitly told. That sounds trivial to us, to a human brain. We do that without even thinking.
But for a machine, that is the spark of genuine reasoning. It's understanding relationships and context, not just statistical patterns of words.
It was a revolution. And here is the great irony, the innovator's dilemma, or what Olson calls the Goliath paradox. Google invented this. Google researchers wrote the paper. Their names are on it.
So why are we all using ChatGPT today and not, Google Chat or whatever they would have called it?
Because Google was too big and too profitable to risk disrupting itself. The book reports they had a chatbot internally called Mina. And apparently it was incredible, years ahead of its time, but they were terrified to release it.
Why? Was it just fear of bad press if it said something wrong?
That was part of it, what they call reputation risk. If the bot says something racist or gives bad medical advice, Google stock tanks. But the real deeper reason was the business model.
The ads.
The ads. Google makes over $100 billion a year when you search for best running shoes and then you click on a bunch of sponsored links. If a chatbot just gives you the perfect answer instantly.
You don't click any links, you don't see any ads, the whole business model evaporates.
So releasing a powerful chatbot was basically burning down their own golden goose. They were paralyzed. They sat on the tech.
But
OpenAI had no ad business to protect. They had no legacy product. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain. They took Google's invention, the transformer, they scaled it up massively, fed it basically the entire internet, and they just released it to the public.
It's a classic case of a monopoly being paralyzed by its own success. But while this software race is happening in Silicon Valley, there's a hardware war. Or maybe a geopolitical one. Let's talk about segment 6, China and the Sputnik moment.
This takes us back to DeepMind. It's 2016. They've built AlphaGo.
To play the ancient Chinese game of Go, which is, infinitely more complex than chess.
The numbers are just staggering. There are more possible positions on a Go board than there are atoms in the known universe. A computer cannot brute force it by calculating all possible moves. It requires intuition, a feel for the game.
And in the match against Lee Sedol, the Korean world champion, we all witnessed move 37.
It's a legendary, almost mythical moment in the history of computer science. On the 37th move, AlphaGo played a stone on the 5th line of the board. In thousands of years of Go theory, playing that high up on the board so early in the game is considered a rookie mistake. It's too aggressive, it's arrogant.
The human commentators thought the computer had glitched.
They did. They thought it was a bug. Lee Sedol himself was so baffled, he actually got up and left the room to compose himself for 15 minutes. He thought the machine had made a terrible error.
But it wasn't a glitch.
No. About 50 moves later, it became clear that this mistake, move 37, was the cornerstone of a brilliant, board-encompassing strategy that won the game. It was a move no human would ever have played. It was genuinely alien creativity.
A new kind of intelligence.
A new kind of intelligence. Now, Google wanted to use this incredible victory for a bit of ping-pong diplomacy. They had been kicked out of China years earlier over censorship issues. They thought, hey, if we go to China and beat their national champion at their own national game, they'll respect our technological prowess and let us back into their market.
So they set up a huge, publicized match against Ke Jie, the Chinese superstar, in 2017. And it backfired.
Yeah.
Spectacularly. How so? AlphaGo won, as expected.
Yes. But the Chinese government didn't see it as a friendly sporting event. They saw it as American technology publicly humiliating Chinese culture on home soil. And they panicked.
So instead of opening up, they shut down.
They shut it down completely. They ordered state media to censor the live stream of the match. Millions of Chinese citizens were blocked from watching their own champion play against the machine.
And the result wasn't a new market opening for Google.
The result was China's Sputnik moment. The book describes the absolute panic in Beijing. They realized they were dangerously behind in the most important technology of the 21st century. Immediately after the match, the Chinese government poured billions and billions of dollars into a state-funded AI program to catch up.
So Google didn't get a customer. They created a superpower rival.
A massive, motivated rival. And the book reveals just how desperate Google was to get back into China. It details their work on Project Dragonfly, a secret plan to build a censored search engine that would comply with the Chinese government's surveillance demands.
Which really undermines the whole "don't be evil" mantra they were founded on.
It just shows how that corporate thirst for growth for new markets completely overrode those early ethical stances.
This leads us perfectly into the next segment, the ethics. Because all these titans are worrying about paperclip maximizers and these grand sci-fi doomsday scenarios, there were very real, very tangible harms happening in the here and now.
Yeah, Olson is very critical of this AI doomer narrative. She reports that focusing on the far-off apocalypse is viewed by many ethics researchers as a very convenient marketing tactic.
How is saying my product might kill everyone good marketing? That sounds insane.
Because it implies your product is powerful. It implies it's godlike. It frames the creators as these Promethean figures tampering with big forces. It builds hype and mystique. And most crucially, it distracts everyone from the boring, messy, and legally problematic reality that the product is biased and broken today.
This is where we need to talk about Timnit Gebru and Margaret Mitchell.
The former leaders of Google's ethical AI team. They weren't writing papers about Skynet taking over. They were writing papers about stochastic parrots.
What exactly does that term mean?
It means the AI doesn't actually understand what it's saying. It's just a very sophisticated parrot mindlessly repeating and remixing statistical patterns it learned from the internet.
And since the internet is full of racism, sexism, conspiracy theories, and all kinds of bias,
the AI becomes a parrot for all of our worst prejudices.
the gorilla incident is probably the most shocking and clear example of this mentioned in the book.
It's just horrific. Google Photos' image recognition software started labeling photos of Black people as gorillas, an absolutely unacceptable racist output. And Google's fix wasn't to go back and fix the biased training data or retrain the model to understand race better, because that would be expensive and hard.
What did they do?
They just hard-coded a ban on the search term gorilla. They just blocked the word.
That's a Band-Aid on a billet wound. It doesn't solve the underlying problem at all.
Not in the slightest. And the book details how, when Timnit Gebru tried to publish a paper criticizing the massive environmental cost and the inherent biases of these large language models, the very models Google was betting its entire future on, she was unceremoniously fired.
It sent a very clear message to everyone in the field. You can have an ethics team as long as they don't say anything that threatens the revenue.
Or the speed of the race. Safety was a speed bump and they wanted it removed.
So we arrive at the current state of play. This brings us to the final segment, the illusion of independence. DeepMind fought for years to spin out of Google.
For years, Hassabis and his co-founder Mustafa Suleyman had this grand vision for a global interest company, a GIC, a new kind of legal structure, sort of like a nonprofit or a UN body. They wanted DeepMind to belong to the world, not to Google's shareholders.
But Google just stalled them, didn't they?
They kept saying, yes, we're working on it, we support this. While behind the scenes, they were integrating DeepMind's technology deeper and deeper into improving YouTube recommendations, making their data centers more efficient, and optimizing Android.
The tech was just too valuable to let go.
It was saving them billions of dollars. Eventually, the trap snapped shut, the spinout was officially denied, DeepMind was forcibly merged with the Google Brain division. The dream of independence was gone.
And what about OpenAI? They started as the independent ones.
The nonprofit board was technically still in charge, but the financial reality of the multi-billion-dollar Microsoft partnership meant they had to ship products. They had to launch ChatGPT. They had to start generating revenue to pay for the compute. They had to commercialize.
So both missions, in their original forms, failed. The attempt by these founders to circumvent the monopolies resulted in those same monopolies gaining the ultimate power.
It's a real tragedy of ambition. You get the sense from the book that both Hassabis and Altman believed so strongly that they were the only ones who had to build AGI, that only they could do it right and safely, that they justified every single compromise along the way.
It's the logic of, I have to partner with Google or Microsoft because if I don't, the bad guys will get there first and they'll win.
It's the good guy with a gun argument, but for superintelligence. And the end result is that the race is now being driven by quarterly earnings reports and market forces, not by scientific curiosity or any real humanitarian concern.
Which brings us to the final provocative thought. We started this whole conversation with the fear of the paperclip maximizer, an artificial entity that mindlessly optimizes for a single metric until it destroys everything in its path.
Yes.
If the creators of this technology, Altman, Hassabis, the smartest people in the room, are pushing forward at breakneck speed despite their own stated fears because they have to satisfy shareholders and beat the competition, aren't they just components in a larger machine that's optimizing for something?
That's the truly chilling realization at the end of the book. Maybe the paperclip maximizer isn't going to be the AI. Maybe it's already here. Maybe it's the modern corporation itself.
An algorithm for profit.
It's an algorithm designed to maximize one single metric profit above all else. It doesn't care about safety. It doesn't care about long-term consequences. It doesn't care about humanity. It only cares about the next quarter's earnings.
The humans aren't driving the bus anymore. The corporate structure is.
And if the two men who set out to save us from that structure couldn't outsmart it, if they were ultimately captured by it, what chance do the rest of us have?
That is the question we are left with. We are all passengers on this high-speed train. The conductors are arguing over the map, and we're not even sure if the brakes still work.
A very cheerful thought to end on.
We prefer clear-eyed to cheerful here. That's Supremacy by Parmi Olson. It's a vital must-read if you want to understand the world that is being built around you right now. Thanks for the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.